model car fans, welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. My name is Ral, and this week's build here I'm featuring is a 68 Plymouth Road Runner. Now this is the introduction of the budget muscle car for 1968, and even surprised Plymouth and its success and everything. But the formula was pretty simple. Plymouth decided that they needed to have an entry-level budget price muscle car. And basically they took the taxi cab Belvedere and decided they would stuff a hot motor in it. And they went with 383, but it wasn't just the standard 383. They decided to hop this one up here and make it Roadrunner exclusive by basically taking the 383 and putting the hotter cam out of the 440 RT in it. Kept the 906 heads and the valves and a lot of that stuff, but basically just put that cam in it, and it made 335 horsepower out of the 383 to give you a nice budget beginning. And they basically took the Belvedere and put, it was a taxi cab and just made the Roadrunner out of it. So basically they took all of the stuff out of their parts boxes and just combined this car, as there really wasn't any unique parts involved in developing this car, with two exceptions. One, they paid Warner Brothers $50,000 for the rights to use the Roadrunner name and the bird on their car. And, they had to develop those stickers, but they were only stickers for the car. And then the other thing is they had to develop the iconic beep beep horn. And they spent $10,000 developing that horn. And it's such an iconic horn today. But back then it was something very unusual and quite a gimmick and a real big gamble to take, a cartoon car and use that as your basic muscle car and market it as that. So with that formula in mind and a really nice budget price and everything, this thing actually took off. So once, they realized, they built the package here. And like I said, the Roadrunner was based on the Belvedere trim line of this car, even though it's a B-body. And the GTX, which was announced also, was based on the Sports Satellite. So a little bit more extra trim, deluxe interior, and that stuff on the GTX. So that's what separates the Roadrunner from the GTX is basically its baseline Belvedere trimmings versus the Sports Satellite's upscale trimmings that became the GTX. Even though the formulas were the same, but the options and everything became much different. But the GTX came standard with the 440 and the Hemi was optional. The Roadrunner came standard with this Roadrunner exclusive 383 engine, and the Hemi engine was optional, but it was a $700 option to put the Hemi engine in, so it was pretty expensive. But initially only being available in the two-door sedan pillared body style for 68, and having the basic taxi cab interior with the rubber floor. They did eventually, as this thing was taking off, as Plymouth had thought, they were expecting to sell 20,000 cars. Now, like I said, this thing took off. They ended up selling about 45,000 cars, and they just were not prepared for that. But it was not available in a convertible. But the hardtop became available, which is what I replicated here. Even though the AMT kit actually has the pillars as an extra piece, and you can put those in and put the windows in if you wanted to. They do provide those parts. But anyway, getting back to the car itself, it really took off, and it was quite the surprise. But nobody had a performance car in this price range before. But you stepped up to the Hemi, you got the big dog, which the Hemi was also available in the GTX. So that thing took off. But I did dress this one up. The model kit comes with the Hemi, so I put the Hemi engine in it. Of course, it comes with it, and it was a lot of fun. But this one, I decided I like mine kind of loaded and dressed up, so I went with the later offered pillared hardtop. I went with the decorative blackout on the hood, the blackout treatment, and then also put the redline tires on it. But I went with the deluxe tail panel trim and everything. Now these are Keith Marks decals, so that's how I built it. And then this was a rebuild. I'm trying to remember, I think it was like 2002 2003 when I rebuilt this, But this is actually my original kit. Now, this kit came out brand new in 1989. I remember it when it came out. I got one. I thought it was really cool, and it went together really well and easy, especially for an AMT kit for the time period. But it was new tooling. And then the Pro Street version came out. I didn't pick that one up. And then it was, you could find them, but it was gone for a while. But I had got back into modeling about 2002, and this kit was re-released in 2000, and it's been re-released multiple times in that time frame. But the original kit, which I have a couple of, it's the one that had all of the emblems on this. Now, I did, build that one. I painted it dark green. I'll show some pictures of that. But it really wasn't, it was good work, but I took it apart and I rebuilt it into this. Now, I did paint this one in a rare but cool color it's actually KK1, which is mostly referred to as seafoam turquoise metallic, but it's called KK1. But I believe that was the Dodge name for it. And the Plymouth name, I think, was just light turquoise metallic. That's testing my memory a little bit. But anyway, but this is Scale Finishes paint. Is when I was starting to switch to them, and I painted this one with their paint, and I used Keith Mark's decals. So, those decals are Keith Mark's on there, and they're black and white. They were not color on the real car until '69, and there's a nice shot of the tail panel. But I had to smooth the tail panel and tail lights completely out to use those decals to make it look right. So I did do some body work there, and you can see the Hemi badge on the trunk lid there. And some say the rear wheel wells are kind of funky. Yeah, they are, and they're just set up a little bit far back, but I'm not so sure I got the chassis completely square in this thing. But there's the blackout treatment, and just some nice stuff here. And then the Hemi engine right there. Now, I did get the air cleaner chromed. Chrome Tech Bob did that for me. The kit doesn't come with the chrome air cleaner. It comes with one you can paint, if I remember right. And I painted everything, and including the underside. This is one of the first ones I did as kind of an over-restored. And I did do this is a separate part, but I did do it properly in the body color. But went with the full over-restored here with the Hemi and the manual tranny. And then the dressed-up Magnum 500 wheels. But it's got the bench seat and the floor shift 4-speed that you can kind of see there. So I always thought this was a really cool kit, and I've enjoyed this kit. But it was plagued with some issues as it's been reissued multiple times. Like I said, the original issue had all of the emblems on it. Then in 2000, they had the Millennium Edition, which I have some of those as well. And they were everywhere, and that one didn't say Roadrunner on the box. They removed all of the Roadrunner molded in emblems, and I don't believe they've reappeared since then. But it had the Roadrunner hood. It doesn't say Belvedere on the box, but it doesn't say Roadrunner, and it doesn't have any of the decals. And it just seems like it got pumped out a lot since then. So the original issue is out there. I've seen a number of them. They seem to still pop up. I think they just made a ton of them back then. But that was in '89. Then for the longest time, it was not reissued until 2000. And it's been reissued multiple times. And I haven't picked up any of the newest ones. So I really don't know if they've changed the tooling much of anything. But I do know in the 2000s when the GTXs were re-released, it seemed like a bunch of them had they had this Roadrunner hood versus the GTX 69 hood. Some of them had the Roadrunner grill and the bumpers. Now, the grill is obvious. You can tell the difference in the 68 or 69 grill. The hood is a little less obvious. The 68 hood is side vents, and they're non-functional, and there's no piece under the hood here, even though it's kind of got it. But 68s were non-functional. 69s were functional as an option, but even the non-functional, functional cars, the part on my top here was different. But AMT did get that right. But then they started mixed boxing some of them. So some of the GTXs had this hood, the 68 hood, instead of the 69 hood. It would basically have the 68 chrome tree. And it would have the 68 bumpers, but not too many people know the difference between a 68 and a 69 bumper. The 68 backup lights are right in the taillights right there. The 69 backup lights are right by the license plate. So the 69 GTX has the right bumper in most of them, but some of them have the 68 chrome. So I just remember finding a bunch of those, and I think the latest release of a 69 GTX, because I have one of those, has a lot of the same parts in it, the correct parts in it. And then I really liked that particular issue because I grabbed one, and to my surprise, it had just about all of the parts, all the Pro Street parts, all of the Hemi engine parts. The early GTX kits all had the 440s in it with a single 4-barrel, and the 70 Coronet had the 446s in them for a while. So those were the kits that had the 446, and the GTX had the 444 barrel, and the Roadrunners had the Hemi engines in them. But that last issue of the GTX had all the motors and all the Pro Street parts, except for the Pro Street tires and the Pro Street chassis. But the axle and a lot of those parts were in there. So I was blown away from a parts kit standpoint how much was in there. Because for a while, these were everywhere, and you can find them for $5 in the 2000s at swap meets. They were just all over the place. So picking them up back then was really easy. And they've been pumped out a lot, even in the last 5 to 10 years. I think AMT has pumped out 2 or 3 more box arts and pumped them out, but I haven't picked up any of the Roadrunner runs that I can recall off the top of my head anyway. But this is one that I just always thought it was really cool. Like I mentioned, some people have talked about the rear wheel openings being kind of funny and awkward. And, I kind of see that now, but it never really bothered me to fix it. Like I said, this axle's kind of in the wrong thing. And I swapped these tires from another AMT kit to get the red lines, as that's what was available to me when I rebuilt this in the 2000s. But it would come with raised white letter tires that you had to paint them. The common Goodyear Polyglass GTs, which I like those, but I prefer red lines and white lines on 69 cars because the white letter tires really didn't start appearing until about the end of 69 and 70 as far as historically, but there are some exceptions. But I really like this car, and I really had to do it in this seafoam green, rebuilding it from the dark metallic, which was British Racing Green Metallic from Testers is what I painted it originally. And I got some of those pictures here, which I believe I intend to show you early on in this video. But anyway, thought you guys would enjoy this, and it'd be something different to see. And plus, I'm kind of surprised I hadn't shown you this one before. It's definitely one of my favorite colors, and a unique color for 68, and just really pops on this car and this body style. And when I was just looking at my stash, I realized I hadn't shown this one before, so figured I would share that with you this particular weekend. And you guys, thank you for tuning in, subscribing, and all your support. I really do appreciate it. And all your comments and everything. Just really love those. So you guys, you have a very good weekend, and I will see you next Saturday.